Hi everybody, we're going to do some maths today. We're going to start with a really quick warm-up, a flashback for 4 questions here. Give them a go. So we've got will 865 divided by 5 have a reminder, usual knowledge of the 5 times table. Multiply these two numbers together. A square has a perimeter of 24 centimeters. Work out the length of each side of the square and write the Roman numeral MCCL as an ordinary number. Pause the video, give it a go, and I'm about to go through some of the answers. So, no, it will not have a remainder. We know that because every number that ends in a 5 or a 0 is divisible by 5, apart from 0, of course. So we know that there are going to be no remainders because it will divide exactly. We'll multiply these two together, we should get 405. Of course, perimeter is 4 equal sides, so we do 24 divided by 4, and that is, of course, 6. And a Roman numeral is 1,000, 100, 100, and then 50, which is 1,250. So well done if you got that. So let's move into what we're going to be having a look at. So we're going to be looking at identifying angles. And we're going to be doing some more work on shape over the next 2 weeks. So what I want you to first do is to write down on a piece of paper everything that you know about angles. Just write it down, pause the video, and then come back once you have written them down. So I'm going to go through some here. So we know an angle is formed when 2 lines meet. So when this line meets this line, we have an angle here. We also have an angle here. Where these lines intersect here, we have an angle there, an angle there, an angle there, and an angle there. So when 2 lines meet, we have an angle. We know that they are measured in degrees. And when we write degrees, we use a funny little circle. So for example, a common one, we've got 90 degrees. I've noticed that I'm writing wonky, so I'm left-handed. 180 degrees. That little circle means degrees. That's how we show it. For example, 54 degrees or 54 and that little tiny circle, and you need to be really careful because the biggest mistake I see is 54 degrees. No, that's not 54 degrees, that's 540. 54 degrees. It needs to be a small dot. Too many children I see don't take care over it, and it just looks like 540. But there might be lots of things that you know, and hopefully we'll cover some of these as we go through. So, why am I stuck? Here we go. What is the size of this angle? So, this one here, what is its size? You'll notice that this is a square shape. Every time that you see an angle that looks like this with the square inside, it is always going to be 90 degrees, which is also called a right angle. Yeah? So anytime you see an angle, even if it's not drawn accurately, if it's like that, it is going to be 90 degrees. Now, my drawing, I have not used a protractor, but I've indicated that it's 90 degrees with that square bit there. Doesn't always mean it could have a circle, but if it has a square, it's always going to be 90. Let's have a look at this one. So an angle on a straight line. So here's a point here. We've got a line here, and a line there. What is the size of this angle? Now, if we drew in that 90 degree, and if this is 90, this one is also 90. What do we have for 2 90s? We have 180 degrees. So that's something we need to learn. We have a right angle, which is 90, and then we have any angle on a straight line is going to be 180, and it's going to be 2 right angles. Well done. If you got it's 180, sometimes just put a half turn. Remember that really small degrees there. So here's our point. We want angles around a point. How many degrees are in a circle, or how many degrees are in a point. And if you think about it, if we've got our right angle, that is of course 90 degrees. Our angles on a straight line, think about that, that is just two right angles. We've got our 90 and we've got our 90. So that to that is going to be 180. But if we think about our angles on a point, we've got our 180 and we've got another 180. So it's 180 and 180, 360. And move that as a full turn. You might see in videos they might do a 360. And that means it's a full turn. So these are really important ones to angles to learn, and I suggest if you're not confident with them, I would memorize these, because with these you can work out what is a 3/4 turn. 3/4 turn is just a half turn and a quarter, so that's 270. If we want half of a right angle in there, it's going to be about 45. And a lot of these, we can use these to estimate, we can get near guesses. So all of these angles, what do we know about all of these angles? Look at the numbers, the amount of degrees. So all of these angles are what we call acute angles. And what do we know about all of these? They are less than 90 degrees. And 90 degrees is important because it's a right angle. Yeah, so all of these are less than 90 degrees. They're acute. I like to think of it as acute is small, a bit like a cute puppy. It really is a small angle. It's less than 90. Let's have a look at these. These are all a little bit larger. We've got 94, 118, whoops, 130, 123. What do we call these angles? These angles are all obtuse. Now, when someone is being obtuse, they are being difficult. An obtuse is an angle that is more than 90 degrees, so 91 plus or 90 and a half plus, but less than 180. So it's those numbers in between 90 and 180. They are obtuse angles. And you might estimate an obtuse angle very similar to this. Yeah, the way I estimate my angles, I picture a right angle in my mind, and if I want an acute one, I'm going to go for less. If I want an obtuse angle, I'm going to go for more than 90, but less than 180. So, as we say, acute angles less than 90, right angles 90, obtuse angles more than 90, but less than 180. Now there are, some of you may know what an angle is called that is above 180. You don't need to know that yet, but that for those of you, so for example, if I had an angle like this and I wanted all of that, that would be called a reflex. I don't want to confuse all of you there, but some of you are going to know that. So the reflex angle here is all of this around here. And some of you will be able to calculate that. So if you can calculate that, well done, you're a step ahead. So look at these angles. What I want you to do is I want you to work out if they are acute, a right angle, or obtuse. And I want you to try and estimate and come up with a very sensible estimate. So pause the video, give it a go. So let's have a look at our first one. Is of course a right angle. And we're looking at that bit there, that bit there, and that bit there. You should always indicate your angles with a curved. I forget what it's called. I did know what that was called. Or it should always be curved unless it's a right angle. And you should also, when you're drawing angles, you should put that in because it lets your person know if you want this angle or this angle. Right angle. So well done if you estimated that was about 90. We have an obtuse angle here. We know that it's larger than smaller than 180, but larger than 90. Give this an estimate. How many degrees do you think? Let's have a look. If I drew that, this bit here would be 90, so we know it's going to be larger than 90, but it's also got like an extra bit. And to me, that looks like, if this is going to be 90, it looks like it's gone a third of the way to me. So that might be an extra 30 degrees, and then 30 degrees, and 30 degrees. So I'm going to say roughly 120 degrees. Doesn't matter. If your estimate was around 120, well done to you. It's not the end of the world though. And finally we have our acute angle. We know that that's less than 90, and if I put in my imaginary 90, I'm going to think that's about half of that 90, so maybe 45 degrees. Yeah, so maybe 120 and maybe 45. Well done if you gave those an estimate. So if you need a little bit more practice on that, feel free to follow this link. I'll obviously put it in the comment section for you to click on and have a look at. Please do have a look at it. You can just explore some different angles on there. But for those of you that are confident, we have our red chili. I'll put this up as a PDF for you. Give these a go so you can complete these sentences, match these up, label. If you want to estimate some of these angles, feel free, and tickle the acute angles down here. 2 chilies, have a go at all of these, estimate some of them, write down what you think they're called, and please give estimating a go. I mean, it's not our focus, so you don't have to, but it's a good way for me to see sort of your thinking. And finally, 3 chilies. Again, we've got a little bit of a reasoning question down here as well. Give it your best shot, and I look forward to seeing your work.